Summary 4. Rock and Roll Radio Connecticut, Magic Moments Unforgettable Disc Jockeys. By Tony Renzoni. Summary. Rock and Roll Radio Connecticut, Magic Moments Unforgettable Disc Jockeys. By Tony Renzoni takes readers on an evocative journey through the golden age of rock and roll radio in Connecticut. This book is not merely a historical chronicle but a celebration of an era when radio was the heartbeat of music, culture, and community. Renzoni vividly captures the magic of the airwaves and the unforgettable personalities behind the microphones who brought rock and roll into the lives of countless fans. From the groundbreaking songs to the behind-the-scenes stories, the book paints an intimate portrait of a time when radio was king. The significance of rock and roll radio. Renzoni begins by contextualizing the role of rock and roll radio in the 1950s and 1960s, a transformative period in American music history. Connecticut, a small but vibrant state, was at the epicenter of this cultural revolution. The book highlights how radio stations in Connecticut became powerful conduits for the rock and roll explosion, bridging the gap between national music trends and local audiences. The medium served as a cultural hub where teens discovered the latest hits, and families tuned in for shared moments of entertainment. The advent of rock and roll radio not only changed the way people consumed music but also redefined social norms. Renzoni discusses how stations in Connecticut gave young listeners a voice, fostering a sense of identity and belonging. The DJs became trusted companions, and their playlists shaped the musical tastes of an entire generation. The disc jockeys, local legends and national influences. A central focus of the book is on the disc jockeys who defined the era. These on-air personalities were more than just voices. They were entertainers, tastemakers, and sometimes provocateurs. Renzoni profiles an array of Connecticut radio legends, offering fascinating insights into their lives and careers. From the charismatic Bob Steele to the flamboyant Jim Gallant, each DJ brought a unique style to the airwaves, contributing to the vibrant radio culture. One standout figure is Brad Davis, known for his lively on-air presence and deep connection with listeners. Renzoni recounts how Davis's morning shows were a mix of humor, news, and of course, music, making him a household name in Connecticut. Similarly, Ron Sedale's commitment to playing classic rock and roll kept the spirit of the era alive long after its heyday. The book also touches on the influence of women in the industry, highlighting pioneers who broke barriers in a male-dominated field. These trailblazers not only introduced new perspectives but also proved instrumental in shaping the evolving sound of Connecticut's radio stations. Iconic moments and milestones. Through meticulous research and anecdotal storytelling, Renzoni recounts some of the most iconic moments in Connecticut's rock and roll radio history. From the debut of groundbreaking singles to live broadcasts of local concerts, the book is filled with memorable events that defined the era. For instance, he describes the electrifying atmosphere surrounding the release of Elvis Presley's early hits and how Connecticut radio stations played a pivotal role in catapulting him to stardom. Renzoni also delves into the rise of Top 40 radio formats, which revolutionized the industry. Stations like WICC and WDRC adapted quickly, curating playlists that kept listeners glued to their radios. The competition among stations to premiere the latest hits added a layer of excitement, turning the airwaves into a battleground for musical dominance. The book doesn't shy away from the challenges faced by Connecticut's radio stations, particularly during the British invasion and the counterculture movement. DJs had to balance the demands of corporate sponsors with the evolving tastes of listeners, often pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable on air. Technological evolution and its impact. Renzoni provides an insightful look at the technological advancements that shaped rock and roll radio. The transition from AM to FM broadcasting is a recurring theme, as FM stations offered better sound quality and more opportunities for experimentation. This shift allowed Connecticut's DJs to introduce listeners to a broader range of music, from psychedelic rock to soul. The book also explores the impact of portable radios and car stereos, which made music more accessible than ever. These innovations allowed rock and roll to become a ubiquitous presence in daily life, Whether through beach outings, road trips, or late-night listening sessions, community and cultural influence. One of the book's strengths is its emphasis on the community aspect of rock and roll radio. Renzoni highlights how stations and DJs supported local artists, giving them a platform to reach wider audiences. Events like record hops and live broadcasts brought people together, creating a sense of unity and shared experience. The author also touches on the social issues of the time, including the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War. He illustrates how rock and roll radio served as a soundtrack to these turbulent times, reflecting both the optimism and the unrest of the era. Connecticut's DJs played a crucial role in addressing these issues, often using their platforms to promote messages of peace and equality. Personal stories and nostalgia, interwoven with historical facts, are personal anecdotes from listeners, DJs, and music industry professionals. These stories add a human touch, making the book more than just a chronological account. Renzoni captures the nostalgia of tuning into a favorite station, the excitement of hearing a beloved song, and the thrill of calling in to request a hit. Readers will find themselves transported back to a simpler time, when the crackle of a radio signal was enough to spark joy. The book's rich detail and heartfelt storytelling make it a love letter to an era that, while long gone, continues to resonate in the memories of those who lived through it. Legacy and enduring appeal. As the book concludes, Renzoni reflects on the lasting impact of Connecticut's rock and roll radio era. While the advent of digital streaming and satellite radio has transformed the industry, the spirit of those early days lives on. The DJs who once ruled the airwaves paved the way for modern broadcasters, and their influence can still be felt in contemporary radio programming. Renzoni also pays tribute to the enduring appeal of rock and roll itself. The music that defined a generation continues to captivate new audiences, proving that its magic is timeless. Connecticut's radio stations may have evolved, but their contribution to the rock and roll legacy remains a point of pride for the state. Conclusion. Rock and Roll Radio Connecticut, Magic Moments Unforgettable Disc Jockeys, is a meticulously researched and deeply nostalgic tribute to an era that shaped not only music but also culture and society. Tony Renzoni's passion for his subject shines through on every page, making this book a must-read for music lovers, radio enthusiasts, and anyone curious about the history of rock and roll. With its engaging narrative and wealth of historical detail, the book serves as both a time capsule and a celebration of a bygone era. Renzoni reminds us of the power of music and radio to bring people together, inspire change, and create memories that last a lifetime.